So thank you again, Sibyl, for being with us today, being on our Reinhardt Wisdom Show and sharing your wisdom with us. So for those of you who are listening and watching, I've actually, you are the only one that I've really worked with closely in terms of astrology. And, I know when I first got your contact, Jyoti was the one who recommended you. And I emailed you, I asked you, some of the questions that I'll be asking you today, like, I always felt astrology is set in stone. Here's the reading. This is your birth chart. This is what's going to happen in your life. And something that I didn't want to. I didn't want my life to be like, it's all set in stone. But I remember how you explained it to me. So, I'd love to get into that. But for those who are listening, Sibyl's work is amazing. I was blown away. I did a reading for myself, my husband, and then we did a relationship, and then I did it for my children. And I remember saying, Sibyl, you've not met my children, but the way you describe each one of them, it's like you have met them for a long time, like you knew what they were. And I was blown away at how, the planets and just, the readings, you know them so well. And I think that's what really got me, and I know I do my reading now with you at least once a year, right? And
right.
for the Sibyl too, she has a very, actually we both did the ministerial program. So she has done shamanic studies. She has a background in counseling, Reiki. I understand you're a registered nurse for a long time before you move into this as well. So thank you again for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Rain.
Oh, thank you. So if you could just share with us briefly, what is astrology for those who are listening who might be new to this kind of work? And my intention to share more of the work to, more people. And what's the purpose of it?
Well, I discovered astrology when I was 12 years old. And I was in Catholic school at the time. And when I discovered astrology, it was like, oh my God, something that finally makes sense. That was my experience. It was like I discovered like the keys to the kingdom. And so what it does, what it is first is a snapshot of the sky at the moment that you're born. And the ancients have always looked to the stars for guidance, and every civilization that has ever existed has had some form of understanding the messages, the celestial messages. Astronomy and astrology used to be combined, and then at some point, in the science revolution, they became separate. But it's one thing to know what they, physically what is happening, but it is another to know what they mean, because we just simply do not live in a random universe. Everything is connected and everything has meaning. And so astrology, like I said, is a snapshot. The chart itself is a snapshot of the sky at the moment that you were born, and the position and the places of the planets and the stars and the dance they do together has a lot of meaning. And what I have found, what it was, first off, was a key to understanding myself. And I'm going to say most people who begin to study astrology, that's why they study it, is because they're trying to understand themselves better. And that is what astrology does. It allows you to understand yourself better, thus making better choices. We have free will choice. Astrology is not fate. It is about leading you to your destiny and to guide you to make choices that actually take you to self-realization. And I'm going to say most people don't actually become self-realized, but that potential is always there, because there are different archetypes, the planets and the stars, and it's hard to explain how it is they actually work, but it's like, as above so below, as within so without. And so they are different aspects of ourselves that just like, let's say the moon represents our heart, our emotions, you think of like when the moon is full and how they say people get a little crazy. You know, you talk about police, the police, emergency rooms, everything is more active in the full moon because the moon really does have an impact on our emotional body. And so when I look at someone's chart, we look at the moon, it tells me about their emotional body and their emotional field. And it just helps people like I said, understand themselves better. And it is a blueprint to guide us to our highest good and highest happiness. And like my teacher said, the only people who don't believe in astrology are the people who've never really experienced astrology, because it is phenomenally accurate in helping us understand ourselves and make better choices.
Yeah, I remember when you did my reading, there were a couple of things that you told me in my chart, and I started digging and started looking more into, and that's how I kind of discovered a little bit more and also learned a little bit more about myself. And I think with the reading of my children just allows me now to kind of guide them a little bit, right? So that really was really helpful for me, I find, just knowing a little bit about, what's the purpose of them being here, like kind of what their potentials are, so that I could kind of, guide them along the way, but not making it has to be, but just there's a guidance around it.
Absolutely. And it helps us understand those around us as well, that they don't come in with the same personalities or the same life purpose or the same anything. And I think that's why it's so helpful to work with your children's charts, because then you understand more of who they are, not maybe who you think they should be.
Yes, that's a big one. Yeah, I agree. Yes. I was going to ask you, for those who are listening, what's the difference? I know there's many different types of astrology, and I know the one that you specifically practice more so is the evolutionary astrology, right? If you could just share with our listeners or those who are watching, what's the difference?
The difference is that evolutionary astrology comes from a perspective that the soul is eternal. There is a past, present, and a future, and that the chart contains information about all of that. And especially, as we know, babies are not born a blank slate. You have 3 children, and when they came in as babies, they already came with the personality. They were not all the same. And so the evolutionary astrology helps us understand the emotional imprinting prior to this lifetime of what we came in to work on and what our gifts and challenges are. And the North Node, that's the past, but there's also a soul intention. And so it helps us understand our past, and it helps us understand where our soul is basically wanting us to graduate in this lifetime. Okay. And so it gives kind of a bigger picture to the journey of our soul. So a deeper understanding of ourselves.
Got it. Thank you. If you could, I'm not sure if this is appropriate to ask, but I'll just ask, could you give a general guideline? I know, how we all born in different signs, right? So
Right.
like I'm a Libra. So if you just could give maybe, just a general, like, is there a certain patterns that we come in with, or behavior, being born in that specific different signs?
Well, yes, there are, and it is absolutely mitigated by the whole chart. The chart is like a tapestry, and we each have our own unique weaving of that tapestry. And so let's just say you have the sun sign Libra. You have quite a few planets in Libra. And so you're going to exhibit more of that Libran energy than, let's just say, someone who just has a sun sign there, but maybe has a lot of energy in Scorpio or a different sign. So it's very individualistic. And also depending on the different patterns that show up, which aspects of Libra would show up for you. And let's just use Libra as an example. So Libra is the sign of the scales. And so it is, it is balance. And I'm going to say anybody who's born with Libra has come in to find balance. It isn't that you come in balanced. It is that you come in seeking balance. So one of the keys is always looking inside to see when you get out of balance, what it is that has brought you out of balance. And usually one of the things people born with a Libra or Aries often conflict. Libra does not like conflict, and both signs have come in to learn how to deal with it effectively. They just deal with it differently. Libra has a tendency to compromise, whereas Aries has a tendency to be more assertive. And so it's like, how do you find that balance between self and other in your dealings of resolving conflict and the way you resolve conflict? Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm excited because I know I'll be doing a reading soon with you again because I did mine last year. I'm wondering, those who have not done the reading, what do they need to prepare? Like, so that
what I need to do a reading is I need a person's date, birth date, birth time, and birthplace. Now, some people don't have the birth time, and I do a process called rectification, where I send someone, I ask for a list of significant events with exact dates, as exact as you can get them, like marriages, births, things like that. And that we can usually find that a birth time that works. It may not be quite as exact as one that you were told or was on your birth certificate, but that's what I need, are those 3 items.
Got it. And so I know, you recommend that to do it once a year. Like I would like to, for you to share, when is a good time to do a reading, or if there's anything that they need to know about, while they're doing the reading.
Well, I would say most people usually show up at my door when they're in the midst of a big transition, just so you know. That's when they show up. But yes, I recommend, and I think it's helpful to have to first have your initial reading, and then, which is a little longer, and then at least a yearly update, because things change. And just so you know as well, when I'm looking at a chart, I see way out. Sometimes I see things that just simply aren't in people's lives yet. And they'll say like, gosh, that's, at the time, I didn't get it, but when I went back and listened, I realized everything you said is what unfolded, and because I see things before they're in your field. Yeah, because they're there. And the thing is, by having it that way, when you can recognize this energy is coming in, it helps you make a better response instead of a reaction. You go, oh yeah, I get it. That's what this is about, because that's what it teaches us, is what is this challenge that is showing up in your life really about? What is the underlying soul growth message, message of soul growth you're receiving? And when you can look at it that way, it helps you move through challenges, I think, a little easier.
Yeah, you just answer my next questions, because when someone going through the reading, and after the reading, what can they do? What do you advise, like, typically? So I think you've shared some of that. Is there anything else they would need to know after?
Well, I would say just sometimes, someone will come to me and they'll say, this is why I'm here. I'm having trouble with my job, or having trouble here. And the chart shows that maybe the real issue is that there's maybe relationship issues that really want to come to the surface. And it allows someone to kind of maybe go to a place they've been scared to go to, and realize if they just confront whatever it is that is really wanting to show up, they can work through it.
Awesome. Thank you. I know I have a few of my graduates have done some work with you, and they all, comes to me and say, oh my God, they're blown away by the reading. It's just, yeah, I'm blown away. Just how can the stars and planets and all that, the moon can tell my life, but yet again, like you say, right? So above, as above, so below, right? The next thing I would like to kind of just ask you, with what's going on right now, what are the planets and the stars, and what are they saying?
Well, they're saying a lot, and I would certainly, if people are interested to watch my bi-monthly video, I do one at the new moon and the full moon, and there's a lot going on. But I'm just going to give a small piece. I'm just going to share what came to me this morning as I was preparing for this. The planets, what they're showing me is that the veil is falling. The veil is falling. As I was sitting in the space, it was that I feel like I'm in the midst of lies, and it just came so clearly. The veil is falling. They've always been there. They're now being exposed, and to be able to let that happen, to keep your seat, just to be grounded, to be centered, know that the paradigm shift is happening. So the veil is falling, and one of the things that just came so clearly today is I remember reading an article from a young man, and he said, I stopped protesting and went home and put in a garden. And I remember Starhawk saying, permaculture is organic, is revolution disguised as organic gardening. And that's what I think the stars are saying, is to connect to Mother Earth. As we move through this ship, stay connected to her. And the most revolutionary thing you can do is go home and grow your food, and to know that the veil is falling, and to keep your eyes open and be able to name what you see, because the foundation upon which the paradigm in which we are living is crumbling. We are moving into a new space, into a new paradigm, but we're not there. We're in the chaos.
Well, thank you. Yes, just staying the present, knowing the real is going on, which is really good news. So and just stay connected to her. So thank you for that. I will, will remember that. Is there anything else you want to share with, our listeners who are, those who are watching, who is new to astrology, before we kind of end the session?
Well, I guess I would just say, if you want to learn more about astrology, and I put out a twice a month video on YouTube, Sibyl Star, and I have a lot of information in there, especially if you want to know what's going on right now. That's what I would say.
Oh, thank you so much. And those if they're interested to get to, experience your work, where can they reach out to you?
Oh, Sibyl at sibylstar.com. I have a website, and you can contact me through that website. It is in the process of being updated, so there is a little bit of, not real current information on there, but there is good contact information. And so, yes, and my email is sibyl@sibylstar.com, and it's very important that you spell my name correctly, Sibyl, because there is someone else out there with my name but spells it differently. So.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think for those who are listening, you want to subscribe to Sibyl's YouTube channel, because that's kind of where I get your bi-monthly updates during the new moon and the full moon, which I love. It gives me some ideas and guidance of what to look at, what to work on, and what to focus for myself, and also to understand what's happening. I think that's really important for me. So I love the guidance, right? So thank you again so much, for sharing your wisdom with us. As usual, I always learn listening to you. And I encourage those who are watching this, subscribe to her channel. And I would encourage you to do a session with her. It will blow your mind away. It blew my mind away. Just every reading about myself, my children, like I said, my husband, and even my relationship, my husband's like, oh my God, how did you know all this stuff, right? And it really supports us in guiding our relationship too, so that we have an idea what to work on for ourselves. So I think it's really important. So once again, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us from your heart. Thank you for being on our Rain Heart Wisdom Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Rain.
Thank you, and you have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.